All right, so our next review lesson is going to be over our GCFs and our LCMs, our greatest common factors versus our least common multiples. And knowing what those letters mean help us remember what to do. So the first one we look at is our GCF, our greatest common factor. Now, we have to remember what these words mean, and factoring is what we just did in the last review lesson when we talked about our prime factorization. When we broke these things down, we have these bottom numbers, and all of these numbers go into 24 evenly. The difference between a factor and prime factorization is that these are all going to be prime numbers. I want to know when I factor something, how or what are all of the numbers that go into it. So here's the key to it. And the key has always been the same all year long, and so please do it. I want to take the numbers that we're talking about now in factoring and in multiples. I could be talking about more than two numbers, but all of your assignments questions are going to be based on two numbers. So please take comfort in that. So if I say I want to find my greatest common factor of 9 and 27, I have to write 9 and 27 down. Yes, they've done it up here. I'm explaining what you're going to see. So the first thing I have to do is I have to think about all the numbers that go into 9. And I always start with 1, and I end with the number that's mentioned. So I know I'm going to have 1 and 9. Then I ask, is there anything else that will go into 9 evenly? Well, I know that 3 goes into it because it's 3 times 3. So this is where at the beginning of the year we talked about, well, these are actually multiplication problems. We just don't list the multiplication signs and stuff. Because 1 times 9 is 9. 3 times 3 is 3. So I don't need it up there twice. On the 27, I know I'm going to have 1 and 27, and then anything in between those that go into 27 evenly. So I know I have 1 and 27, 2 doesn't because it's not even, 3, 2 plus 7 is 9, 3 does go into it evenly, 3 times what? 3 times 9. 4, no, 5, no, and I can count all the way up to 9. 9 is the only other one that goes into 27. Once I have that, then I have to look at what we're talking about. Greatest common. So it has to be the largest number, and it has to be listed in both of those as a factor. So my greatest common factor between those two is just simply 9. On your practice ones, I have 3 different ones here for you. We have 18 and 45, 33 and 66, 72 and 96. I think you can see it on the screen, so it shouldn't be a problem. So the first thing I do, my steps, I write down the 2 and stack the ones that were given, 18 and 45. All right. Now I have to find the factors, all of them for 18. And so I go through my multiplication problems. 1 and 18, that's my beginning and end always going to be. And then I go through anything that will go into it. Does 2? Yes, 2 times 9. Does 3? Yes, 3 times 6. 4? No. 5? No. 6? It's already up there. Then I go to 45. My first one's going to be 1. My last one's going to be 45. Does 2 then go into it? No, it's not even. 3, 4 plus 5 is 9. 3 does go into 9, so yes, has to. How many times? Well, if I can't do that in my head, that's okay. I get my hand dandy calculator, type in 45 divided by 3 equals, and I see that it's 15. Does 4? No. 5? Yes. How many times? 5 times 9 is 45. 6? No. 7? No. 8? No. 9? It's already up there. When I get to the one that's already up there, I know I'm done. Now, here's where at the beginning of the year, many of you were getting C's and D's on your assignments, and some of you were getting F's because you did not want to show your work. I'm hoping now, after 33 weeks of school, you realize that I'm not going to give you any points for not showing your work. You'll get a point for having the answer, but when there's 2 points per question, you got to show me your work if you want to pass. This is not difficult. Yes, it may take you a couple seconds to write them down, but I'm going to expect that you write them down. Once I have them, then I know that my greatest common factor, so I would go from my 45s, it's definitely not 45, it's not 15, 9. 9 is the largest one they have in common. So my answer, it can't just be circled. There is an answer line. You're going to write your answer on the answer line. So my answer is 9. Number 2. So I have 33 and 66. So I write them down and I stack them. I drop down here just because didn't want to get everything crunched together. So this one works to be down here. So 33 and 66. Then I go through my factors of 33. My smallest one, once again, will always be 1. My largest one will always be the number itself. So I know I have 1 and 33. It's not even, so 2 doesn't work. 3, yes. Multiplication of doubles, 3 times 11. And then I can go through all of the other numbers up to 11. 11 is the only other one that goes into it. So 33 has 4 different factors. On 66, I have 1 and 66, and then anything else is going to go in between. I know automatically 2 is going to go into it because it's an even number. So I'm going to have to include that one. So 1 and 66, 2, well, 2 and 33, all right. 3, well, 3 goes in. Oh, I skipped one. There should be a 22 in there. I apologize. So it should be 3 and 22. 4, no, 4 doesn't go in evenly. 5 doesn't end with 5 or 0. That doesn't work. 6, yes. Once again, multiplication of doubles. So 6 times 11. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 6, 11, 22, 33, and 66. Once again, this gives me 1 point for showing the factors of the 2 different numbers. I find the greatest common one. So if I go here and start moving backwards, it can't be 66. Too big for 33. But my next one is 33. I know that's my greatest common factor. And then I write my answer on my answer line. The last one. Now sometimes you're going to end up with a whole bunch of them. Still got to show them because it's required to show your work. So I'm going to stack my 72, I'm going to stack my 96, and then I'm going to go through them. My first one and my last one. So this is where if you show your last one really close, you might get everything crunched together because this one has several factors. 1 goes in 72 times. It's even, so I know 2 goes in. 72 divided by 2 equals, I know it's going to be 36. 3, well, 7 plus 2 is 9. Yes, I don't know how many times. 72 divided by 3 equals, and I find out it's 24. 4, not really sure. Let me type it in my calculator and find out. 72 divided by 4 equals, oh, it does, 18 times. How about 5, or how about 6? Doesn't work with 5 because 0 doesn't end with a 0 or 5. 6 does, 6 goes in. 8 does, 8 goes in. And 8 went in 9 times. It's already up there, so I know I have them all. I do the same thing with 96. 1, 96, 2, 48, 4, 32, 6 and 24, 8 and 16. My greatest common factor then is 24. I find my factors of each of them. The greatest, the largest one that they both have inside of them is going to be my greatest common factor. I write it on the line. Now, at the bottom of that page, then it talks about it and reminds us about the distributive property. So the distributive property is when I'm either going to take a small number and multiply by 2 things that are inside parentheses, or when I have something like this where I have an addition problem, I'm going to take the greatest common factor out. Now, this one tells me to take the greatest common factor out. I could actually do 2 different ones. I can look at it, and when I'm talking about taking it out, distribute it, so it's going to be distributed out, or it could be in reverse and distribute it if I had the parentheses instead, like this one has the parentheses. Then I have to find the factor that goes into both of them. So what is the factor that goes into 9 and 27? Well, there's 2 of them. I could say 3 goes into both of them, and that's a true statement. And if I use 3, 3 would be on the outside, and then I want to put parentheses up. So this says what number comes out of both, and I'm going to keep the rest inside of parentheses. So 3 goes into 9 how many times, and 3 goes into 27 how many times. So in my parentheses, I would have, well, 3 went into 9 3 times, kept that addition sign, and 3 goes into 27 9 times. So I distributed out of 3 if I would then multiply distributing in. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 9 is 27. I'd be able to go back to my original problem. However, on these, we would be doing it with the greatest common factor. 3 is not the greatest common factor of those two numbers. So what is the greatest common factor of those two numbers? So hopefully you see that 9 is. So my actual answer, even if it, unless it just said, give me a distributive property. If I need to do my greatest common factor, then I'm going to use the 9. Well, how many times does 9 go into 9? Well, then in parentheses, 9 goes into 9 one time, and 9 goes into 27 3 times, and I keep that addition sign. So if I have to use my greatest common factor, this would be the answer. If I don't have to use it, then I'm all right. So we have 3 practice problems on that one as well. This one tells me in the directions, use the greatest common factor, the GCF, and the distributive property to express this as a product. It's as a product because a number touching a set of parentheses is always multiplication, and product means to multiply. So what is the greatest common factor between 18 and 24? Well, the greatest common factor between 18 and 24, when I list out my factors, I would see that, well, it's not 18 because 18 doesn't go in there evenly. It's not 9, but 6 is. So I'm going to use a 6, and then I ask, well, how many times? 6 will go into 18 how many times? And 6 will go into 24 how many times? And those would be in my parentheses. So 6 is my greatest common factor, then 6 goes into 18 3 times, it's addition, plus, and 6 goes into 24 4 times. 6 is done the same way. Find out my factors, find my greatest common factor, and then do my distributive property. So I find my factors of 15. There's 1, 3, 5, and 15. 75, 1 and 75, 3 and 25, 5 and 15, that's the only ones. And then I'll find my greatest common one. And my largest one for 15 is indeed in 75. So I can factor out a 15. And then I ask, well, how many times does it go in? Well, 15 goes into 15 once, and 15 goes into 75 a total of 5 times. So I factored out a 15, and what's left, once I factor it out, would be in parentheses, and I keep whatever addition or subtraction sign is inside. 7 is the same way. I have 36 and 54. Find my factors of each of those numbers. Find out which one is the greatest common factor. When I look, let's say I have a 54, no, 27, no, 18. 18 works. 18 would be the greatest common factor. Well, how many times does 18 go into 36? How many times does 18 go into 54? So I put 18 on the line, and then in parentheses, well, 18 goes into 36 2 times. Keep the addition. And 18 goes into 54 3 times. And if you don't know, once again, handy dandy calculator, type it in, hit the equal sign, and then you know. So then we switch gears. Just the opposite of the GCF. We have our least common multiple. So we have to know what those words mean. First thing, multiples sounds like multiply. Doing my multiplication problems in order to find the least common. All right. Well, what do we do? This has the exact same type of key idea to do it and to set it up. I'm going to write them down. I want to stack the numbers, but this time I'm going to do my multiplication facts. Now, you may have to go out a really long time to do your multiplication facts. Okay? You may have to go out 10 multiplication facts. I generally start with 4, and then if that doesn't work, I go a 5th, and if that doesn't work, I go a 6th, so on and so forth. So I have 3 and 9. All right. Well, if I do my multiplication facts, so I generally show that I'm multiplying, so I remember that multiple sounds like multiplication. I'm doing my multiplication facts. So I'm going to do times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times so on and so forth. So once again, I generally just go out the first 4. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. And then I go to my 9. All right. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. I notice that my least common, and that's the key to this, least, smallest common they both have as multiples is actually the very first number I wrote down for 9. So I wouldn't actually have to go out 4 different ones for the 9. I could have stopped when I wrote down the 9 and saw that that's already listed up there. That has to be my least common multiple. All right, so we're going to do this one. We're going to fill it in, look and try to make a point here. It says list the first 10 multiples for each number. All right, so my multiples of 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5, 20. 4 times 6, 24. 4 times 7, 28. 4 times 8, 32. 36 they give me. And then 4 times 10 is 40. All right, we got it. My multiple is 10. Well, that's pretty easy. We can't add a 0 to it. So I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Got it. Least common. Here's the idea of it. It says to write down any of them that are common. I have 2. I have 20 and 40. So I have to remember this least is important. Has to be the smallest one. If I have numbers that I don't have multiples in them, I'm going to have multiples as long as I can count, which is the rest of my life. There's going to be multiples that pop up as I do multiplication problems. And I don't want to do that. That's why we don't say list all of the multiples, because you could never have enough time to continue to find all the multiples. Always just find one of them, the smallest one that they both have. The least common multiple, therefore, in this example of 4 and 10, I know it has to be the smallest one, which is 20. So our practice problems. We have 5 and 20. So I stack them, and then I do my multiplication facts for 5. Well, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, so on and so forth. And if 20 doesn't work, I'm going to add on to it until it does work. But I notice that I'm talking about 20, and that's the first one. So all I have to do is show one multiple of 20, and that's going to be my least common multiple. So that has to be my answer. When I do 6 and 15, I do my multiples of 6. I do my multiples of 15. When I do my 6, I have 6, I have 12, I have 18, I have 24. Now when I did 15, then I saw that 24 is not enough. I had to go out again. And so 6 times 5 is 30. When I do my multiples of 15, then I only have to go out 2. My smallest one they both have in common is 30. So 30 has to be my least common multiple. 7 and 14 ought to be pretty easy. I show them. I show my work so I can get credit. 7, 14, 21, 28. 14, yep, it's right there. I only have to show one. That is going to be my least common multiple. 10 and 15 then. When I do 10 and 15, I start out 10, 20, 30, 40, so on and so forth. I stopped at 30 though, because I know, as I have here, I only need to go out 2. I have 15 and 30 is going to be my least common multiple between the two. Should be a quick and easy review. It's less than 20 minutes to watch the video. You have 20 questions to do. Make sure you show your work, because half of your assignment is showing your work. And if all I have is a whole bunch of correct answers, you're going to get a 50%. So you must show your work. When you're doing your greatest common factors, you must show me that you're finding the factors of both numbers and then which one is the greatest. And then when you're doing your multiples, you must show me that you're finding your multiples of the two numbers and then finding the smallest one.